The pattern in my neighborhood has shifted this evening. Something is wrong. People wait at their train stop with their faces closed, not talking to each other. They climb on without the usual greetings of those of us climbing off. A small white air car, an official vehicle, sits slitted next to the blue shuttered house on our street. My house. Hurrying down the metal stairs from the air train stop, I look for more shifts in the pattern as I walk. The sidewalks tell me nothing. They are clean and white as always. The houses near mine, shut tight, tell me a little more. If this is a storm, it will be waited out behind closed doors. The air car's landing gear is delicately sprayed out, rusting on the grass. Behind the plain white curtains in the windows, I see figures moving. I hurry up the steps and hesitate at the door. Should I knock? I tell myself to stay calm, stay clear. For some reason, I can picture the blue of Kai's eyes, and I can think better, realizing that reading the situation correctly is part of getting through it safely. This could be anything. They could be checking the food distribution system, house to house. That happened once in a different borough, near here. I heard about it. This might have nothing to do with me. They are telling my parents about Kai's face on one of the microcards. Do they know what grandfather gave me? I haven't had the chance to destroy the poems yet. The paper is still in my pocket. Did someone besides Kai see me reading it in the woods? Was it the officer's shoes that snapped the sticks? This might have everything to do with me. I don't know what happened when people break the rules because people here in the boroughs don't break them. There are minor citation issues from time to time, like when Bram is late. But those are small things, small errors, not large errors, or errors committed with purpose, infractions. I'm not going to knock. This is my house. Taking a deep breath, I twist the knob and open the door. Someone waits for me inside. You're back, Bram says, relief in his tone. My fingers tighten around the piece of paper in my pocket. I glance in the direction of the kitchen. Maybe I can make it to the incineration tube and stuff the poem down into the fire below. The tube will register the foreign substance, and think paper is completely different from the paper good napkins, port paintings, delivery envelopes that we allow to dispose of in our residences. But it might be a little safer than keeping it. They can reconstruct the words themselves after I've burned them. I catch a glimpse of the biochemical official in the long white lab coat moving through the hall into the kitchen. I let go of the poem, take my hands out of my pocket. Empty. What's wrong? I ask Bram. Where's Papa and Mama? They're here, Bram says, voice shaking. In their room. The officials are searching for Papa. Why? My father doesn't have the poems. He never even knew about them. But what does that matter? Kai's classification is because of his father's infraction. Will my mistake change my whole family? Perhaps the compact is the safest place for the poems after all. My grandfather kept it hidden for years. I'll be right back, I say to Bram. I slip into my room, slide the compact out of my closet, twist, open the base, put the paper in. Did someone come in? The officials ask in the hall to Bram. My sister, Bram says, sounding terrified. Where'd she go? Twist again. The compact doesn't close right. The corner of the paper sticks out. She's in her room, changing clothes. She got all dirty from hiking. Bram's voice sounded steadier now. He's covering for me, without even knowing why. And he's doing a good job of it, too. I hear footsteps in the hall. I open the compact back up, slide the corner in, twist. A muted snap takes place at last. With one hand, I unzip my plain clothes with the other and put the compact back in the shelf. I turn my head, the door opens, surprise and outrage on my face. "I'm changing," I exclaim. The officials nod at me, seeing the smudge of dirt on my clothes. "Please come into your foyer when you're finished," he says quickly. My hands sweat a little as I pull the clothes off that smell of forest and put them in the laundry receptacle. Then my other plain clothes, striped of everything that might look or smell like poetry, and I leave my room. "Papa never turned in Grandfather's tissue sample," Bram says in a whisper once I come back into the foyer. "He lost it. That's why they're here." For a moment, curiosity overrides his panic. "Why did you change your clothes so fast? They weren't that dirty." "I was dirty," I whispered back. "Shh, listen." I hear murmurs of voices in my parents' room, and then my mother's voice raises, and I can't believe what Bram told me. My father lost Grandfather's sample. Sorrow cuts through the fear inside me. This is bad, very bad, that my father has made such an enormous mistake. But not only because that might mean trouble for him and for us, because it means that Grandfather's really gone. They can't bring him back without that sample. Suddenly, I hope the officials find something in our house after all. "Wait here," I tell Bram, and I go into the kitchen. A biochemical official stands near the waste receptacle, waving a device down, back and forth, over and over. He takes a step and begins to motion again in a new spot and the kitchen. I see the words painted alongside the object he holds: "Biochemical Detection Instrument." I relax slightly. Of course, they have something to detect the barcode engraved on the tube Grandfather used. They don't need to tear the house apart. Perhaps they won't find the paper after all. Perhaps they will find the sample. How could Papa lose something so important? How could he lose his own father? In spite of my instructions, Bram follows me into the kitchen. He touches my arm and we turn back towards the hallway. "Mama's still arguing in there," he says, gesturing to our parents' room. I grab Bram's hand and hold it tight. The officials don't need to search my father. They have the detection instrument to tell them where to look. But I guess they have to make a mistake there. But I guess I have to make their point. My father should have been more careful with something so important. "Are they searching Mama too?" I asked Bram. "Are we all going to share our father's humiliation?" "I don't think so," Bram says. "She just wanted to be in there with Papa." The bedroom doors open. Bram and I jump back out of the way of the officials. Their white lab coats makes them seem tall and pure. One of them can tell that we are frightened, and he gives us a small, intended reassurance. It doesn't work. He can't give back the lost sample or my father's dignity. The damage it's done. My father walks behind the officials, pale and unhappy. In contrast, my mother looks frustrated and angry, and follows my father and the official into the front room, and Bram and I stand in the doorway to watch what happens. They didn't find the sample. My heart sinks. My father stands in the middle of the room, while the biochemical team berates him. "How could you do this?" He shakes his head. "I don't know. It's inexcusable." His words sound flat, as if repeated them so many times that he has given up any hope the officials of believing him. He stands up straight, and the way he looks always does. He stands up straight, the way he always does, but his face looks tired and old. You recognize that there is no way of bringing him back now, they say. My father nods, his face full of misery. Even though I'm angry with him for losing the sample, I can tell he feels awful. Of course he does. This is grandfather. In spite of my anger, I wish I could take Papa's hand, but there are too many officials around him. I'm full of hypocrisy. I did something against the rules today too, and what I did was intentional. This may result in some sanction for you at work, the officials say to my father in a tone that means, I wonder if she will get cited too. No one is supposed to speak this way, even when errors occur. Things aren't supposed to get personal. How can you expect to handle the restoration and disposal of artifacts if you can't even keep track of one tissue sample, especially knowing how important it was? One of the officials say quietly, you ruined the sample belonging to your own father, and then you don't report the loss? My father passes his hand over his eyes. I was afraid, he says, knowing the seriousness of the situation. He doesn't need them to tell him. Cremation occurs within hours of death. There is no other way to get a sample. It's gone. He's gone. Grandfather is really gone. My mother presses her lips tightly together and her eyes flash. But the anger is not at my father. She is mad at the officials for making him feel worse than he already does. Even though there is nothing to say, the officials do not leave. Few moments of cold silence pass during which no one says anything, and we all think about how nothing can save grandfather now. A chime sounds in the kitchen. The dinner has arrived. My mother walks out of the room. I hear the sound of her talking to the food delivery and placing it on the table. And she walks back into the room. Her shoes made stabbing, serious sounds in the wood. She means business. It's mealtime, she says, looking at the officials. I'm afraid they haven't sent extra proportions. The officials bristle a little. Is she trying to dismiss them?